Welcome to the Bishop Kevin Foreman Leadership Podcast. We got one for you today because every leader inevitably is going to deal with someone that they deem as a Judas, someone that comes in, backstabs, betrays, takes advantage of, uses, abuses, misuses, and it comes with the seat of leadership. And I'm excited because in today's Leadership Podcast, I have got with me an amazing guest. I'll be right back.
And we love people, and you know we love life, love God, and we love people, and you know we love life.
Welcome back to the Bishop Kevin Foreman Leadership Podcast. You can see right there, I've got the love and life coach himself, the hip hop apostle, Dale Lawrence, with me today. Listen, this is going to be amazing because every leader deals with someone they deem as a Judas. And I want to give some real practical things from the life of Jesus. The whole purpose of the Bishop Kevin Foreman Leadership Podcast is to help leaders go further, faster. It's really an extension of the Harvest Leadership Network, which is where we empower leaders to change their regions and seize the harvest in the 7 spheres of society of arts and entertainment, business, education, government, media, and church and spirituality. That being said, I don't care whether you're a pastor, whether you're a plumber, whether you are a producer, no matter what level of leadership you are, you're going to deal with the Judas. Talk to us about the fact that this comes in every realm, because you are not just in the realm of ministry, but you've got business, you've been in music. For those that may not be familiar with you, just share a little bit about your background and then talk about how every leader is going to deal with the Judas no matter what industry they're in.
Yes, I started in music with the Oscar Platinum selling Southern hip hop collective, Hypnotized Minds, 3-6 Mafia. And a lot of my schooling came from them as far as business is concerned. And then, of course, in the year 2000, gave my life to God, started my own record movement of Christian hip hop with Kent Jones and Molly Music and artists like that. And also author in various different businesses. And a Judas is always present. I even got a song called Judas.
Wow. What project is that on?
That's on the Black Project. You can look up the video for that, which I think is a great visual on YouTube, Mr. Dale Judas. But man, you're going to find a Judas in everything that has purpose.
Woo! Wait. Let's go. Because this is leadership. We cut the fat, we get right to the meat when we're talking to leaders. You're going to find a Judas in everything that has purpose. So the lesson is,
wherever purpose is found, a Judas is standing there.
A Judas is standing there. So you're not just going to deal with one. It's going to be a successive series of Judas, almost Judas, that you're going to have to deal with. All right? That's good.
Yeah, they're connected to every kingdom purpose project. I believe. And I believe that God uses that Judas to keep you sharp, to keep you on your toes, also to advance you as well. I believe a Judas is there for growth. If it wasn't for Judas, there would be no cross experience. Jesus needed Judas to get him to that cross, because if he left it up to Peter, which was the church, he never would have got to that cross. And this is why Jesus called Peter the devil and Judas a friend.
A friend. This is so good. So a Judas is present wherever there's purpose, number one. Number two, for every leader, is that a Judas is used for advancement. A Judas is used for advancement. A Judas is used for growth. So I want to throw this in, because that's great that this is what a Judas is for. This is what a Judas does. But let's not deny the fact that hurts.
Listen, it took me years to get that wisdom I just gave you, because usually, at every stage of my career, I was noticing the same thing would happen. I would deal with the same Judas, almost played to I'm talking about the same scene, but
different characters,
but a different scene.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it was almost like Back to the Future.
Right.
You know how all three of those movies, it's like they have the same occurrence, but one happens in the past, one happens in the future, one happens in the present. That's exactly how it was. And it took years of praying and going to God and saying, like, God, what is this? And you know, the whole time I'm trying to pray away the Judas, God is like, no, I want him or her planted right there, because I know you can overcome this.
This is so good. I love what you said, because it happened multiple times for you. And dealing with the Judas doesn't mean that you did something wrong. And I think that's an important leadership principle, because many times people will think, if I treat people good, if I love people, nobody's going to do me wrong. And you should treat people good, you should love people, but the reality is everybody, back to the first principle, is going to deal with the Judas. You're going to have somebody that you are good to, and it doesn't matter how good you are to them, you're going to experience that Judas. So let's define the Judas.
It actually means you're doing something right.
You're doing something right. Because why attack what's not going anywhere?
And definitely. And God can trust you.
Yes.
And you found faith. You've obviously done something to trigger God. Look at Job. It was God,
right,
that dropped Job's name. You know what I'm saying? So it means you're doing something right.
That's good. And I think that alone can take away 50% of the feeling that people can experience, especially as a leader when you're dealing with a Judas, because your thoughts begin to say, okay, maybe I should have had this conversation. Maybe I should have did this. Maybe I should have helped him with that. Maybe I should have did this. Maybe I shouldn't have said this so rough. And the truth is, it didn't matter how good Jesus was to Judas. Judas was going to do what Judas was going to do. So let's define a Judas. Judas' name, from a scriptural standpoint, his name literally means peephole in a door, which means a Judas works both ways, like you already said. A Judas is looking in to get something, but a Judas is also your glimpse into something. Let me back that thing up. A Judas is your glimpse. We often talk about God's going to open doors. God's going to open doors. There's a door. Your Judas is your peephole to see what's on the other side of your door. It proves that there's a door to what you just said. So every leader that's dealing with a Judas, you were not dealing with only one, and it doesn't mean you did something wrong. It's a part of purpose. It means you're doing something right. It is your peephole in the door, which means when I see a Judas, I know I'm at a door. Something's about to open for me. I need y'all to drop that in the comments. Something's about to open for me. But then on the flip side, the Judas is looking in, trying to get something, because Judas' surname is Iscariot. And Iscariot means traitor. So Judas is a peephole in the door that's the son of a traitor, which means his nature is not to be loyal. I want you to talk about that, because you come from both worlds, right? You got kingdom world, you got music, hip hop, all of that. And you know, there's sometimes this thought that people in the streets can sometimes be more loyal. You've heard this phrase. People can be more loyal than people necessarily that are saved. And Christians talk about that, because the reality is that Judas is a peephole in the door, and his nature is to be a traitor.
Yeah, I mean, the streets has a code, just like any other industry has a code of ethics.
Right.
Of course, in the streets, that code is very different from other businesses, because in the streets, it can cost you your life. Where in other businesses, it costs you your job, it may cost you a deal, something like that, but you wake up and you still live. But in the streets, it'll cost you your life. So there's more of an intense passion for following the code when it comes to the streets. That's where you get, the type of, people are more loyal. But nowadays, as the generations turn and as ambition has went viral, then now everybody has the temptation to be the Judas.
Wow.
Because the ambition flirts with it.
Wow. The ambition flirts with the temptation to be a Judas.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
You know what the Bible says? Bible says that Judas, he went to the chief priests and the temple officers, and he was the one that gave them the idea on betraying Jesus. And the Bible says, and they agreed to pay him money, which means Judas thought, this is finally my opportunity to be seen, finally my opportunity to be somebody, because I'm sitting here counting Jesus money, and he was stealing it too at the same time. John teaches us, I'm counting Jesus money, I can do this for myself. And what people don't know about you as a leader is that while they think they could do what you do and do it better, they couldn't last 10 minutes in the seat. Here's what I want to talk about in part 2, because we ain't giving it all to you in part 1. In part 2, we're going to pick it up and talk some more practical nuggets about how leaders deal with a Judas. Listen, guys, if this has blessed you, I want to encourage you, always sow into and bless what blesses you. The Bishop Kevin Foreman Leadership Podcast, all of the resources that we make available are made available to you because of the faithful giving of the people of Harvest. I want to encourage you to sow into this. Maybe it's 50, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 1,000, maybe it's 10,000. Harvest is good ground, and you can talk about that. I mean, the good ground that Harvest, the good ground that Bishop Foreman is. Encourage those leaders that are watching that are blessed by the podcast and all the other resources that we put out. Encourage them on the importance of sowing.
Listen, man, I live my life by the seed. Everything that I have is a result of seed and honor.
That's good.
And I honor Harvest. I honor Bishop Foreman. I'm a consistent sower into his life and into the ministry, and I have seen the fruits of it. I've seen the fruits of not just sowing, but sowing into the right ground.
Yes.
Ground that is liking of you, that is of the same kind of you. If you want a certain type of harvest, you got to sow into a certain type of ground. And so I encourage any and everybody to sow and to believe and to name your seed when you sow it, because the ground here is definitely fertile. Good
ground. There you go. Part 2 is loading. How do you deal with a Judas from a leadership perspective? This has been the Bishop Kevin Foreman Leadership Podcast.
And we love people.